Good morning, everybody. Happy Thursday. So today I am doing a reading wrap-up / progress video as we shift from February to March. Matt and I have a entertainment review video for January and February coming out on Sunday afternoon, and there will be many more book reviews in that video too, so stay tuned. The first book I read is called A Last Supper of Queer Apostles by Pedro Lembel. This is a translated essay collection of LGBTQ plus essays that was for the Reading the Rainbow Book Club for March. I participate in this book club online because due to a schedule conflict, I can no longer go to the meetings, which are the second Monday of every month. So this next month's meeting will be 2 weeks from now. I really enjoyed this essay collection. I would say my favorite essay was probably... Let's flip to the table of contents here. His Theory Laugh, New York Chronicles, and Merci Beaucoup were my top 3 favorite essays. I gave this essay collection 4.5 stars. The next book I read this month was That's Not How It Happened by Craig Thomas. This is a fiction book about a woman named Paige who makes a movie about the restaurant that her son with Down syndrome works at. The main couple in this book is Paige, who is the person who makes the movie about the place where her son with Down syndrome works at, and Rob, who is a screenwriter for movies and TV shows. He was a writer for a popular fictitious show called Subway Series, on which he met his wife Paige. They have 2 children, Emmett, who is the son who has Down syndrome, and Darcy, who is the younger sister who feels kind of like the outlier in her family because her brother gets all the attention. So I really like this book. It's by one of the producers of the TV show How I Met Your Mother. And I started listening to this on audio, but then I ran out of time for my audiobook on Cloud Library app, so I read the physical book. I gave this book 5 stars. And please read this book. It's fantastic. I really like Craig Thomas's writing style. How I Met Your Mother, for those of you who don't know, is kind of like a rebranding of Friends with different characters. This show was on from 2005 to 2017, I think. And it starred Josh Radnor as Ted Mosby, Colby Smulders as Robin. I can't remember Robin's last name. Allison Hannigan as Lily. Jason Segel as Marshall. Neil Patrick Harris as Barney Stinson. And, I feel like I'm forgetting one more person because there were 5 characters, right? Or maybe there were 4. Marshall, Lily, Barney, Robin. Yeah, so Josh Radnor and Colby Smulders were the audiobook narrators for for Rob and Paige. And then they had a person with Down syndrome narrating for Emmett. So the author of this book was inspired to write this book because he has a son with Down syndrome whose name is Elliot. So yes, this book gets 5 stars. The next book that I finished reading a couple of days ago is called The Other Side of Now by Paige Harrison. This is my first book by this author. It was recommended to me by Gabby at Gabby Reads. She read it last summer. With a leading role on a hit TV show and a relationship with Hollywood's latest heartthrob, Meg Bryan appears to have everything she ever wanted, but underneath her happiness is as fake as her stage name, Lena Lord. Following a tiny nervous breakdown at her 30th birthday party, she books an impromptu trip to Ireland, specifically to the village to where she and her late best friend Amy always dreamed of moving. When Meg arrives, the people in town don't just recognize her, they seem to know her. She quickly, reluctantly realizes that somehow she slipped into an alternate reality. One where she did move to Ireland as a teenager, only where she never got famous, and most shocking of all, one where Amy is alive and well. She just wants nothing to do with Meg. Despite her bewilderment, Meg is clear-eyed about one thing. This is a once-in-2-lifetime chance to reconnect with her friend and repair what she broke, or else risk losing Amy all over again. The plot of this book is so interesting, and I really enjoy this author's writing style. I gave it 4.5 stars. This book was a backlist book from last summer. Again, also recommended to me by Gabby at Gabby Reads. This is called These Summer Storms by Sarah McLean. Alice Storm hasn't been welcome at her family's magnificent private island off the Rhode Island coast in 5 years, not since she cast and built out her life beyond a storm name, influence, and untold billions. But the shocking death of her larger-than-life father changes everything. Alice plans to keep her head down, pay her final respects such as they are, and leave the minute that the funeral is over. Unfortunately, her father had other plans. The eccentric, manipulative patriarch left his family a final challenge, an inheritance game designed to upend the world. The rules are clear. Spend 1 week on the island, complete their assigned tasks, and receive the inheritance. But a whole week on Storm Island is no easy task for Alice. Every corner of the sprawling old house is bursting with chaos. Her older sister's secret love affair, her brother's unyielding arrogance, her younger sister's constant analysis of the vibes, her mother's cold judgment, and all under the stern, watchful gaze of Jack Dean, her father's intriguing and too handsome second in command. It will be a miracle if Alice manages to escape unscathed. A smart and tender story about the transformative power of grief, love, and family. This luscious novel explains past secrets, present truths, and futures forged in the wake of wild summer storms. So this book reminds me of The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, only set on Rhode Island. And I found this online on a TBR list for Gilmore Girls characters to describe Logan, and I think it makes sense because Logan comes from a rich family, and like if his father passed away, I have a feeling that he might do something similar to this in regarding to the will. The next book that I reread this month is called Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Gabrielle Zevin. This is my second time reading this book after first reading it in 2023. This book focuses on 2 characters named Sam and Sadie who meet at the hospital when they're recovering from cancer, and they both turn into video game designers. I had a hard time getting into this book when I initially read it, but then when I reread it again, I really appreciated all the video game references, especially Mario Duck Hunt and Oregon Trail, because those are 2 games that I played as a kid. So this book gets 4.5 stars, and the reason I think it was selected for a friends reading list I found on Instagram for books that describe Ross is because there is indeed a chapter called Pivots. The next book that I read in January, this is a late review because I was waiting to review this as the same time as the book club book that I had the meeting for last night. This was the January book club book pick for the Books and Brews book club that I'm in with Rachel Conrad at Print Bookstore. Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingslover. This is a modern retelling of David Copperfield by Charles Dickens, reimagined in the Appalachian Mountains, and it focuses on Demon. This character's name, so this is a very powerful and emotional story. I'm not going to spoil too much for you, but it does deal with alcoholism and addiction, so those are some trigger warnings. If those kinds of things trigger you, read this book with caution. But I really liked Barbara Kingslover's writing style, and in book club last month, one thing that we noticed about, let me just flip to my notes. Boop, 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 boop. Here we go. Nature versus nurture refers to, so basically Demon is a young boy who has to grow up pretty fast because his mother is never around, so he basically has to raise himself. It's called parentification. I connected the Demon's character to Rory Gilmore because she basically has a toxic relationship with Lorelai where she has to be like kind of like a mother and a friend to her, because I mean a mother, daughter / friend to her, because Lorelai had her when she was so young and a child herself, basically. And another character that I related to Demon's character was Julie from Desperate Housewives, the daughter of Susan, who was played by Terry Hatcher. I have never watched Desperate Housewives. I just happen to watch a lot of retrospective videos on Kiara Loves TV's channel, and she hasn't posted anything lately, so I hope she's really doing all right. I really miss her videos, so I gave this book 4.5 stars. The next book I just picked up at the library earlier this week on Monday or Tuesday is The Swan's Daughter by Roshoni Chomsky. This is the new release from the same author of The Last Tale of the Flower Bride, which I read in 2024 and gave 4 stars to. So this looks to be so let's see. Prince Aris doesn't know that marriage means murder. The poorly worded wish to a sea witch. All one needs to rule the Isle of Malice is the heart and hand of the kingdom's heir. Historically, this has been construed quite literally. Thus, Ares accepts the day after her marriage and murder. He will wake up as a sentient tree alongside the rest of his predecessors. His only chance at a long life is finding true and lasting love. When Ares' parents announce a tournament of brides to compete for his hand and heart, a slew of eligible, lovely, and possibly murderous bachelorettes make their way to Wraith Castle. Amidst glittering balls and Ozerald cave strolls through menageries of daydream trees and pearl crocodiles, tea time on glass boats, and kisses that leave his head spinning. Ares cannot tell who is here out of love for him or out of lust of power until he meets Demelza. As a veritar swan, Demelza's song swings out the truth. Forced into hiding, Demelza strikes a deal. Ares will provide her with safekeeping in exchange for her truth-telling song to sort through his potential brides. When Ares is dodging death's stress and Demelza is accustomed to fighting for her voice to be heard and survive the tournament of birds requires a different kind of something. And perhaps the bravest thing one can do is not merely protect one's life, but find the courage to make life worth living. I can't wait to get started with this. I'm very excited. The next book I just started reading the other day is Taylor Adams's new release, Her Last Breath. This is a thriller book about two girls who go down into a cave and kind of get trapped there. So this is highly anxiety ridden because they get trapped in the cave and they have a person who is kind of harassing them stuck in there with them. I started this on Monday and I'm on chapter 8, page 72. The next book is the book I just had book club for last night. My Sister the Serial Killer by Oyenkan Braithwaite. So let me just get my notes up. So we had a really great discussion last night about how neither this main character nor her sister were very likable characters. This focuses on Kurodi, who has a sister named Iola, who is a serial killer, and she basically has to cover up all of her sister's crimes, and like, she's self-righteous because she has to cover up her sister's crimes and makes excuses for her all the time, which in my point of view, that would be a tiring relationship to have, and I would not like to have that kind of relationship with anybody, including my own sister. Luckily, I don't. So, in the meeting last night, a lot of people were saying how the mother character in this book is very similar to Mrs. Bennett from Pride and Prejudice because she's obsessive with marrying off both of her daughters to somebody rich. And then also one main discussion we had last night in the meeting was about the person who was in a coma in the hospital and how everybody basically agreed, including me, that if he had woken up, he probably would have told our main protagonist to go to the police to turn in her sister. So I found this book listed on a book list for books that describe friend characters that describe Phoebe, and at book club, that was the last thing I asked before we went home, and everybody else agreed, and I second to their opinion that the reason why this book describes Phoebe is because she has an evil twin named Ursula, but also a connection that I noticed was them talking to the guy in the coma, because in this one episode from season 2, Phoebe and Monica both have a crush on a guy who they see in the street who they both think is cute, and then he gets run over by a car and has to go to the hospital because he's in a coma, and they both have a crush on him. I just thought that was such a weird plot. I hate that episode. I gave it 3 stars. I gave this book 4.5 stars. Or 4 stars. The next book is a reread for me. I borrowed it from my mom on Friday when I went over her house. It is The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna. This is set in Texas during the Dust Bowl in the 1920s, which was right before the Great Depression. I first read this book in 2023, so it's been a couple of years, so I'm very excited to be reading it again. And I am on chapter 7. The next book is a book I recently acquired when I went to Bull Moose to go book shopping with Matt and Kathleen on Saturday afternoon. It's called Daddy Issues. It's Kate Goldbeck's new release from October. She's the same person who wrote You Again, which I read in 2023. Was not a big fan of, just because I didn't like the main couple. So apparently You Again is supposed to be a When Harry Met Sally retelling. I saw When Harry Met Sally for the first time on Valentine's Day. I love that movie. I love the chemistry between Sally and Harry, who were played by Meg Ryan and Billy Crystal. But in You Again, I just couldn't get behind the couple's relationship because I didn't think they were nice to each other. This book is called Daddy Issues, and it's about a girl named Sam who is expected to be thriving in an exciting career and not stuck in her hometown crashing with her mom. But when a single dad becomes her new neighbor and she finds herself attracted to his steady, settled life and quiet confidence, she realized that she might not know what she wants after all. So I'm excited. I'm only on chapter 10, but I'm very excited to see how this character is going to develop her relationship with her neighbor. So this book is I find this book easily connected to Friends or Gilmore Girls because I think Sam could probably be perfect. Actually, come to think of it, this character relationship reminds me totally of Monica and Richard. I'm not sure how old her neighbor is supposed to be, but Monica is 26 in season 1 and season 2 of Friends. So I think this perfectly describes Monica's relationship with Richard, even though I don't exactly know how old the guy is supposed to be. But I'm assuming if he's the same age as her mom, then her mom must be in like her 50s or 60s, and Richard was 67. So, yeah, I'm only on chapter 10. I don't know so early what I'm going to give this book for a rating, and we will have to see. The next book I am rereading is Business Casual by B.K. Borson. Kathleen and I are reading this together for the Friends and Gilmore Girls TBR because this couple describes Monica and Chandler. I read this book when it first was published in 2024. So this book came out 2 years ago, and I read it when it was first published, and I gave it 4 stars, and that rating won't change. The last book I am currently reading is called Rise, My Story by Lindsey Vonn. This is the biography of the Olympic skier Lindsey Vonn, and I'm really enjoying learning about her. I decided to read this because of the Winter Olympics that just finished on Sunday, and skiing, snowboarding, and figure skating are my 3 favorite Winter Olympic sports. Feel free in the comments to share what your favorite Winter Olympic sports are. In Rise, My Story, I am currently on chapter 12, page 131. So I actually got off the phone with Kathleen a couple of about 45 minutes ago, and we were talking about our podcast, and we have decided to actually do something a little bit different. We are going to be filming a retrospective podcast episode at the beginning of May so I can promote the new fan fiction book I'm going to be selling at our June art show at Double House Arts. And we are going, in that retrospective, we are going to be talking about all of the books that we have read for this TBR, talk about our favorite books that we have read up to this point. We started this TBR last January, and we are doing this retrospective TBR documentary because we just want to talk about what we've been reading over the past year or so, and talk about all of the movies that we have been watching, and talk about our favorite episodes of Gilmore Girls that we have seen up to the point in season 4 that we will be in by May, which I think is episode 14 of season 4. So the reason why we decided to do this is because we just have so much going on in our lives outside of doing the podcast, and we're very busy, and we also didn't take into account when we first made our schedule for the podcast how many books we were going to be reading. So what we basically decided to do was do this retrospective podcast in June as our final wrap up. And then for the rest of the year, we're just going to be reviewing the books on our blogger blogs, or in my case on Substack. So Substack was originally supposed to be for my general TBR, but I think I'm also going to be reviewing the Friends and Gilmore Girls podcast books on those on that blog as well as Blogger, because I don't think the Blogger blog is getting a lot of views on it, and I really don't think my YouTube videos get a lot of views either. So we would like to thank everybody who has been supporting our podcast on Friends and Gilmore Girls. A part of the reason why I have to stop doing it is because of all of the issues I have dealt with in the background since August of 2023 with hackers who are pretending to be celebrities. Like, before Matthew Perry died, people were pretending to be him. After Matthew Perry died, people were still stealing his identity and trying to steal money from people, including me. And more recently, I was talking to somebody who was claiming to be Jennifer Aniston's stepbrother, Alex, and he was trying to sell me a fan card to talk to Jennifer Aniston. I had to block him because he was not getting the fact that I could not afford the fan card, and there was probably no fan card because at one point when I was dealing with the hacker who was pretending to be Matthew Perry, I actually reached out to his manager, and he was the one, Matthew Perry's manager, and what he basically said to me was that nobody would go online to pretend to be a celebrity or a relative of a celebrity and ask for money for a fan card. He also said that there was no way to meet Matthew Perry backstage at any of his activities to do interviews because of COVID-19 restrictions. So that's how I knew that person who scammed me was in fact a scammer and not Matthew Perry, because of all this information that his manager told me. His manager's name, who is no longer part of Hollywood because of what happened with the whole issue with his doctors poisoning him. His name is Doug, I think. I think that's his name. I have to look in Friends, Lovers, and the Big Turbo thing again, but I'm pretty sure his name is Doug. So, yeah, it hasn't been an easy road for me, but I think I'm at a point now where I'm ready to retire from doing social media because of all the stress it has put me under ever since 2023. And I think it's better for my mental health that I step away. So that's why the podcast is ending, and that's why the videos that Matt and I make together with the entertainment reviews are going to be ending. Those videos will be ending in August. And as I just said, the documentary that Kathleen and I are going to be making to promote the sales of my fan fiction book and the art show in June is going to be probably out like the weekend after Mother's Day or something. We don't know when it's going to be released because it takes a while to edit everything together. So, thank you for tuning in. Have a great day, everybody. Have a great weekend as well.